Listen in as I chat with a nuclear physicist turned entrepreneur who's making some serious noise in the world of hearing aids.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day everyone and welcome back to another episode of Australia's #1 marketing show. I am your host, Timbo Reid, but you, yes, you so much more importantly are a motivated small business owner ready to crank out some great marketing. To that end, I think we should just get stuck right on in.
Small Business Big Marketing with Tim Reid.
Okay, team, so good news and bad news that August the 14th date that I'd mentioned in the last couple of shows regarding my potential live event for the 200th episode. And I have an interview coming up with a very clever lady, Dr. Elaine Saunders, who's co-founder of a small business that's selling self-programmed, self-fitting hearing aids online. And she is doing an amazing, amazing job of being a disruptor brand. More on Dr. Elaine shortly. But first, let's talk about August 14. As you know, I have been saying I am going to do the 200th episode in front of a live studio audience. I'm not. Oh, I know. It pains me to even say that. Couple of reasons, team. Number one, finding a venue proved a little bit more difficult than I'd hoped. That's a hopeless excuse, but it's the truth. And secondly, I have been inundated with speaking engagements over the coming 4 months and got booked for that date just this week. A too good to refuse opportunity. So I have to renege on that. I'm sorry, but we will do a live event. We do meetups in Melbourne every now and then, and I plan to do more as time frees up. Isn't that funny? But we will get around to it. So sorry if you were excited by the fact that there was going to be a live recording of the 200th episode. Don't be. We will do something to celebrate it, whether it be virtually or face-to-face. I will configure that out in the coming days. I'm about to hop on a plane actually to Auckland, so I might even kind of have some wonderful brainwave there. But all is not lost, because on August the 14th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m, our very good sponsors at Net Registry have an amazing 3-hour online marketing training workshop. It's $49 and it is full of gems. It's going to be led by their lead online marketer in Sam Shetty. And it's for you, the motivated business owner, to review your current online strategies and to get some ripper new ones. I encourage you to go. It's a small group of less than 20 people. There'll be live examples. There'll be all sorts of great marketing insights from a guy who really knows his stuff in Sam. So, as I said, it's on August the 14th. It's 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's $49. It's in La Trobe Street in Melbourne. So I'll put a link in that to the show notes for this episode, and or you can contact Net Registry direct, netregistry.com.au, and book yourself a seat. I encourage you to do that. Sorry about that 200th episode thing, but I'll make it up to you in some way, shape or form in the coming months. Okay, team, on a positive note, let's get stuck into today's fireside chat. I was wrapped. After I hung up from Dr. Elaine, I just thought, what a wonderful, wonderful lady doing amazing things in the entrepreneurial space and for the hearing impaired. Now, Dr. Elaine is the co-founder of a business called Blamey Saunders Hears. And as I said, it's a self-fitting, self-programming hearing aid that is sold online for like $3,000, expensive, costly purchase, sold online. So good on them for taking what would seem like a risk, but history says otherwise because they're doing okay. I first heard Elaine interviewed on Qantas Radio and it piqued my interest, and subsequently have seen the Blamey Saunders brand all over the place in Melbourne. Radio, they're sponsoring the footy on the radio. They're getting some great publicity. So I had to find out how she was doing it, because here am I, not in the market for a hearing aid yet, but yet I'm still very aware of the brand. So this is a wonderful story about how to launch a disruptive business, and I don't think there's enough of them. Virgin lead the way. Thank you, Sir Richard. But Dr. Elaine is holding onto his coattails and doing a great job as well. It's also a great story about how to compete against brands with much deeper pockets than yours and succeed at the same time. So grab a cup of tea, grab a notepad. I started off by pointing out to Dr. Elaine the elephant that was in the room. Now, this is the first time, Elaine, that I've had a marketing discussion with a quantum physicist, so no big words, okay?
I'm happy with that. I think I've left that brand a little bit behind me.
Is that well past you? Would you consider yourself a businesswoman woman these days more than a quantum physicist?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. So
it's usually a conversation stopper, to be honest.
Being a businesswoman or a quantum physicist?
A quantum physicist.
I don't even know what one is.
It's a study of little indeterminate things, really.
Oh, so I don't even understand that. So I'll move on to marketing, which is much more interesting for me. Love to talk about where the idea for Blamey Saunders came from. Talk about the launch and then finish up with some marketing discussion, because I think Blamey Saunders as a brand, from my point of view, seems to have come out of nowhere, and now you're doing some wonderful things. So really keen to hear how you've done that. But first, what problem did you identify, Elaine, that sparked the idea for the business?
Well, after working for some years in technology development and commercialisation in hearing aids and cochlear implants, I felt that we could develop hearing aids that were better than other manufacturers and at a price that was better, and that where there were less barriers for the public to get them, so they could have them from home. So basically using technology to give people a much better and much more accessible experience.
You really hit on a market, just having done some research, a market that was well overpriced, was complicated for people to actually get their product. I mean, from what I understand, to see an audiologist was, or maybe still is, in the realm of $10,000?
It can be. We have a kind of tally board for the most expensive quote we hear from our clients, and they're quite extraordinary. They go well higher than that, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Is that opportunistic on behalf of the audiologist?
It's really that the channel is controlled by the manufacturers, and that because people don't really want to go and get hearing aids on the whole, although their lives certainly benefit, people have bundled prices and services together. So it's a combination of those two factors. It's not a volume market, or it hasn't been in the past.
You're almost the Richard Branson of hearing aids. I mean, he Virgin into markets that are well overpriced and deliver a much better, cheaper service.
Well, that leads as a good segue, I'm sure, into what would have been one of your later questions, which is that when we were looking at our brand modelling and brand development, I looked very closely at his model, because I felt that he was a hero in his industry, and that's what I wanted to be to the public.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I'd love to cover that later on. So you've looked at it and you've seen, okay, so it's expensive, it's difficult, it's complicated, and then you've gone and decided that you are going to actually sell these hearing aids online. Now, I'm going to be a bit stereotypical here and say that, hearing aids are for old people. I'm sure they're for a broad range of people, but to sell them online, and pull me up here, please, but to sell them online to, I'm guessing, a majority audience of older people, that is, to me, it's not risky, but I hear a lot of small business owners go, oh, my customers aren't online, they're old.
I think that might be a fallacy, because that's one of the fastest growing groups of people using the internet, because it's a tremendous enabler. It connects people to the world. If they're on the internet and they can shop from home, they can get their groceries, they can play games, they can chat to their friends. So I think that older demographic is increasingly moving online, is much more online than is generally held. The other secret was to recognise the demographic that we're working with and to make it very accessible. So we've really wanted to make sure that it was a good experience. The hearing aids are so easy that people can easily set themselves up themselves as long as they can use a computer mouse, and many people are on email. So it was really thinking about the whole experience.
Do you think that's music to my ears. Even yesterday I was running a workshop and someone put their hand up and said, my target audience isn't online because they're over 50. And it's like, I'm sick of hearing that. I was in a plane recently and watched two lovely old ladies well into their 80s, immersed in their iPad until the plane took off, So,
well, the data shows that people in the age group 45 to 65 look to the internet first for their source of information. Above TV, books, radio, they go to the internet first.
Where did you get that data from, out of interest?
I read so much that I have to say I can't remember at the moment, but that's good solid data, and I could provide a quote. It's great to hear because I think the world is now well and truly online. Do you think you're leaving a large amount of money on the table, given that you are an online business selling hearing aids that require people to program and self-fit? No, I don't think so. It's partly philosophical. I really want people to have good access. Clearly, it's got to be a business that's profitable. Staff like being paid. We've really looked at it as a combination of products and services, because I think if you are online, you've really got to deliver excellent service. We're giving people that good experience of what I think is a realistic price. And for many people, the barrier, if you like, on going online to buy hearing aids in that demographic is not being online. It's not even hearing aids. It's the first purchase they've made on the internet. And even at half the price of other hearing aids, it's still quite a big purchase to make online.
It is. Am I right in saying it's around $3,000 to buy?
Yes, that's right. For between 2 and 3.5, depending which model. But that brings everything. It brings the 2 hearing aids. It brings the online service. It brings all the accessories. About a year's worth of batteries. So it brings everything. They're ready to go.
What was the research that you did in the lead up to launching the business? Oh, I don't mean product research, by the way. I mean just getting a sense to say to people, hey, listen, we are going to sell hearing aids online and they will be self-fitting.
It was a long build-up. Like many businesses that are overnight successes, there was probably about 15 years preparation. But the years I spent selling technology to other hearing aid companies was an extremely good research basis for the market. I've really understood the demographics of the market quite well, and we were really keen as part of our brand to bring forward to the public the science that backed our product. It's a quality product. It's been clinically trialled. We knew we were bringing forward something that had a very, very strong scientific basis, and that's what we wanted to bring forward.
How wrong was I in stereotyping the fact that hearing aids are for old people?
Pretty wrong. We start on the downhill with our hearing aids, with our hearing probably from the beginning, but certainly from about the age of 20. And by the age of 45, many people are getting problems. By the time you're 60, about 1 in 3 have hearing difficulties. And that's accelerated by any kind of exposure to noise, even for short durations. So you've done a little bit of bunny shooting or lots of listening in a recording studio or the odd night at a dance club, then that will be accelerated.
Are you seeing, just out of interest, being the father of 3 teenagers who are fairly good at walking around with earphones in half their life, are you seeing that impacting on the hearing of young people?
The research that has been done in Australia, not by us, but by other scientists interested in that area, show that it's having a definite impact on young people, and that the figures I'm giving you, saying 1 in 3 people over 60 who have hearing difficulties, will probably be 1 in 3 over 40.
Wow.
For this generation.
You might be onto something with this Blamey Saunders thing.
The market is extremely underpenetrated. That's part already, and that's not accounting for the growth in the market.
Tell me, just going back to that whole price thing and taking on effectively the audiologists, have you had much kickback from the audiology community?
I think they're beginning to realise that it actually enhances their role in that we help all the people who can use hearing aids easily and can get on with it and have adopted them fairly early, and that there is a very strong role for them for people who have not got onto it early and perhaps have other difficulties who are extremely deaf. So eventually it will enhance their role, but not as hearing aid salespeople, as audiologists.
Right. And I understand whilst you are very much an online business, there are audiologists around the place that are stocking your product?
There are, increasingly, and I think they're realising that it's a very, very good product, and it's one of the few products that comes with clinical trial data. And we've started a network of audiologists who, even if they don't actually supply our products, will work. We've favoured them as people to work with our clients.
Mm. Let's talk about the launch. You said 11 years. Is that right? Is it sort of like 11 years ago you kind of started to have this idea?
I suppose it evolved over that period, and the technologies developed over that period, and most of that time we were selling technologies to other hearing aid companies. So we founded the company very quietly, a couple of years before the launch in 2011,
right,
and developed a sort of beta group. We worked with customers and built up a group of customers of around 250 people, and then we felt very confident to launch, and we worked with a specialist in science launches. We worked with Science in Public, who took it forward absolutely as a science story to the public, and it was actually picked up by all the major TV stations, which was a very good way to start.
Oh, that's gold. I understand that your husband 11 years ago left his work to focus on raising the family while you focused on what I guess was, in the end, this idea?
Absolutely. Well, at that point I was selling technology and working with companies around the world, so there was a lot of travel involved, but also I've been very single-focused, I think, on building and working in people with hearing problems and really helping them and developing technologies for the market.
Was that a hard decision for him to make and for you to make?
It's not a no-brainer. It's I guess it wasn't so much a hard decision. It seemed like the right thing to do, but I think it was probably a hard adjustment. It's actually a bit easier, I think, for guys today role swapping, but then there weren't very many Mr. Moms turning up at school. No,
11 years ago. I mean, that's a short amount of time, but in the scheme of, dads leaving their work and being Mr. Mom, that's a long time, isn't it? 11 years ago. It just wasn't talked about a lot.
All the structures are set up there, for whatever we may like to think, the structures are set up for mums to be at home and dads to be at work.
Is he back at work? Well, he's back at work. He's always been at work, but is he back in employment now?
Kind of. He's doing a little bit with us,
right.
In that he's become a master of building soundproof rooms. We actually have a
oh wow! Can I have
large, one? If you would like. We have a large clinic in Melbourne at our headquarters, where we see people who prefer face-to-face, and also it's a base for us to do more research. So he's built a number of soundproof rooms now, and otherwise has become something of a risk and safety advisor to us in the background. And the rest of the time he looks after our property out in Wood End.
Oh, nice. Well, I tell you what, the growth in podcasting, Elaine, is huge, and there will be more and more people out there wanting soundproof rooms, let me tell you. So if he kind of needs to, digress into other areas, then there's definitely a role for that. You tell us the moment when you did open the doors in 2011. You opened the doors, so to speak. Push the go live with the website button.
It was huge. So we had been mindful that and optimistic that it could have a major impact, and that we were going to be scaling up from one employee. My business partner Peter and I were in day jobs at the time. Wow. Providing the finance.
Okay, so you were an employee elsewhere.
Yes.
And you're bringing this to market. Love it. This is the lean startup model by the sounds of it.
Absolutely. We were looked after very, very well by the Bionic Ear Institute, now the Bionics Institute.
Was that your employee? Employer?
No, it wasn't. But they provided us incubation facilities in that we rented a space for them as an office, a very small space, but we had access to their soundproof rooms. And we had one wonderful employee who had thought very mindfully about the scale up we may need very rapidly, and we were very quick to draft in friends and family, I think, to help.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've got children, both you and Peter, who is your business partner. You've both got children working in the business?
We have.
Yeah, right. Good on you.
It's not how we started out, thinking that we'd have a family business, but they have proved to be fantastic.
Fantastic. And yeah, that's great, because there's a whole family business thing going on there. Not quite. I mean, they're still proving themselves. It's still first generation, yeah?
Well, that's right. But Daniel, who was our first employee, brought in his sister, who was at the time doing a PhD in law.
Yep.
And she was extremely flexible in moving from packing boxes to doing orders.
That's what you need.
It is, because at the end of the day, although it's an internet business, it's actually a medical device business too. So we've got to have a very, very high degree of compliance around our order dispatch.
Did you find it hard coming from what I'm guessing you're in a very structured environment, very corporate environment? Things were there for you, you know. But to be as simplistic as saying, you know, there was a photocopier there, and there, you know, you could go and do whatever you need. Things were at your disposal. To then starting up a very lean business, was that a big transition?
I think you just do what you need to do. I mean, it's the second business I've started, and then I spun off a company from the CRC for Cochlear Implant and Hearing Aid Innovation. That wasn't mine, and it had the blessing of venture capital. It belonged to venture capital and to the CRC. But I had done it before.
Right.
I have a very able assistant, and I would recommend anyone working in this kind of environment to have somebody they really can trust as a really able assistant. And you do what you need to do.
Mm. Did your employer know that you were working on this out of hours?
Yes.
Yeah, right. That helps.
Knew from the beginning.
Yeah. Wow. Fantastic. You know, no secret stuff happening there.
No, I mean, it certainly didn't impact on the work I was doing, but at all. Mm. But it was all clear and above board from the beginning that I had an interest outside.
Mm. Okay, so now the doors are open, things are going, you're scaling up. Was there a point where you thought, oh, hang on, don't know whether we've made the right decision here?
No, I don't think I've ever thought that. I think we've got choices, and it's sometimes hard to make the next choice. I mean, we're in a disruptive and a very innovative business, and we're probably one of the world's leading telehealth businesses, my guess. Certainly Australian.
What's telehealth?
It's doing...
Is it like e-health?
Yes, the words get used a bit interchangeably, so I see it as remote health, things that use technology to help you work with people far away.
Are you selling to overseas as well?
In a desultory way. We haven't launched overseas, but we do have customers overseas, right. And we certainly hope to go international. That's one of the choice points.
Yeah, right. Well, what's the impact there? I mean, okay, you're posting overseas, you're having your customer service, you'll need to have kind of probably 24/7 customer service. What else could possibly kind of get in the way of that?
It's really the logistics around exactly those points. It's the fact that we think there should be good service and potentially regional service, and we're working towards that. There's another issue that has to have a bit of thinking, which is actually local value-added tax around the world. It's different for quasi-medical devices wherever you are. And the question of who actually collects that tax varies from different places. So it's not quite as simple with something like that as one might think it should be.
Don't you hate that? Tell me, Elaine, was there a point then when you thought, oh, hang on, this has got legs, this is getting real traction? Was there a day, a moment, a meeting, a sale?
I think really that's the comments we get from our customers. We get some most amazing testimonials. I don't think we've had to miss. Every Friday evening we sit around and have a drink, of course, being Australia, and share a testimonial. I'm not sure that we've ever had to miss a Friday for a fantastic customer testimonial. So that's, I think, what makes us all really, really happy.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I notice you put them on your website as well.
We do, and we actually put them all there. So that's kind of testament to the fact that we have not had anything terribly negative.
That's fantastic. Listeners, I'm talking to Dr. Elaine Saunders, who's co-founder of Blamey Saunders, the first self-fitting, self-programming hearing aid that can be bought online. Now, let's talk marketing, Elaine. This is fascinating. First of all, this has always been a bugbear of mine with technology brands, your product naming. Now, your two products are called this is the quantum physicist coming out in you. You can either have the SIE64 or the LOF hearing aid. Now, the marketer in me says, why didn't you call one, like the Megatron or, some kind of fancy name that's going to have some emotion behind it? What's with those strange coded names?
I think it was a reaction to the hearing aid industry that has been producing hearing aids with names that don't mean a lot for a long time, and I'll invent some, but sort of, the Maestro, the something.
Yeah.
So we just called ours the SIE, which stands for speaker in the ear, and the LOF is a slightly more complex explanation, but it's actually a Liberty Open Fit. But I think the next ones may have fancier names.
Yeah, I think so. Happy to help there. I love naming things, and I'm sure my listeners do too. But I just think it is also, from a purchasing point of view, I don't know, but it would be easier to say, can I have I don't know why I came up with the word Megatron, but can I have the word...
Well, I'll consider it.
Yeah. It'll be a booming sound. It'd be quite interesting even. Just another idea that comes to mind is... Well, is it a good idea to do some kind of joint branding with like a Bose or a Bang & Olufsen? Is that kind of...
I think the potential for us in the future is huge. That's what we have to think about. I've spent a lot of time working with telecommunications and headset companies as part of in the previous company I was in, and I think they're probably a little bit better at the naming than the hearing aid companies, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, there's an upside. The fact is you are disrupting. You're a disruptor. You're full of initiative in what you've done. To let yourself down, they're big words, but to let yourself down at the naming would just seem a pity, And
I think that's a very good comment. It was perhaps we didn't want to look like other hearing aid companies, and that was perhaps a little bit too extreme.
Yeah, right. Fair enough. Now, onwards with the marketing. You must have felt a whole lot of pressure to get the website right, to get your online presence right, because that is your shop front. How did you go about making sure that you did? Well, have you got your website right, and how did you go about doing that?
I think we'll always be wanting to do improvements, and there's a lot going on with my technology team at the moment, so that there are more good things to come and quite soon. In fact, there's some very exciting things to come and quite soon. The first website was home built by Peter Blamey, and then it was much improved by our now Chief Technology Officer, Daniel.
See, I find that amazing. I find it amazing that you must have spent a considerable amount of money inventing, maybe you spent all your money inventing the product, to then go, to leave it to your business partner. I'm sure Peter's a very nice fellow and highly intelligent, but for him to put his hand up and say, let me get the shop sorted out, seems like a massive risk.
Well, it's needs must. So at the point that we launched, we also underwent finding a really good brand development design company to work with, and we researched that quite a lot. And the current website that you see is the product of quite an intense brand development process. So it was more than just a website, and I think we always knew we'd go that path, but that it was not a trivial thing and it needed some revenue. And we own this company, so we have a 10% partner from overseas, but we've done it without investment capital, so we wanted the revenue.
When Peter said, I just want to push that a bit more, when Peter said, I'll do the website, did you just say, oh yeah, okay, well, that's one less thing I have to worry about? I have very, very high regard for his judgment. We did actually engage someone to help with the look and feel of it, but it was a very superficial brand, and we've actually markedly changed the brand since then, so I was pretty confident. No, that's very interesting. Tell me, as I said at the start of this chat, Blamey Saunders seems to have come out of nowhere. I was trying to think before we started talking, when did I first come across it? I first heard you speak on Qantas Radio.
Yeah.
And I think probably that's when I first came across it. And then all of a sudden, I'm hearing you on the radio. You're sponsoring some scoreboard during the football on 3AW, which is a rig radio station in Melbourne. I've checked. You've got AdWords going on. You've got a little bit of social media activity. You really, even the fact that you're on Qantas Radio, it tells me you've got some kind of publicity strategy happening. So, who is behind all this?
We've brought in, I've got a good executive team, and we've brought in a CFO who's done some business development work with us as well, and that's been great in helping us brand develop. But it was a very conscious decision that we needed to put ourselves out there. We needed to build a brand quickly. Peter and I are probably quite well known in the hearing aid industry. In fact, we are, but not by the general public. So we did put a lot of thought into launching a brand and being very much in the public eye. The footy stats I actually love. It wasn't my idea. In fact, it was 3AW's idea. Mm-hmm. But I really like that because there is an association there with keeping healthy, with youth. Untreated hearing loss causes horrible problems in that even a slight hearing loss can cause people to withdraw, and they get depressed. They actually lose brain function. So getting hearing aids early and keeping it as part of sort of a healthy aging is really, really important.
Is there some irony to the fact that radio is one of your major channels to market? I'm guessing it is. That's where I'm often hearing the brand, and it's an audio medium?
The radio is more about the brand development rather than, we're not sure how quickly it leads to sales. It's quite difficult to track with hearing aids. But I guess it is. But I think also if people can hear enough, then they're really what I'm hoping they'll want to do is improve their hearing. And
I guess
people
too,
who are completely deaf are probably better with a different kind of device.
Yeah, right. And I guess too, I mean, someone like me, my mum's 88, is going deaf and resists any mention of a hearing aid. But, you know, the fact that I know about Blamey Saunders, I'm more likely to refer her on, or at least follow that path and see whether, you know, she'd be interested in doing that. So it's kind of that secondary audience as well, yeah?
It is indeed. We find quite a lot of people refer their friends or their parents or their relations, and I've been quite surprised how much, as an internet business, we actually gain customers from word of mouth, direct word of mouth.
I always challenge that because I think word of mouth's the result of either great product, great service, or the fact that you've got some a high level of advertising or marketing happening out there. So, yeah, word of mouth.
Well, we've got some interesting connections, though. We one of my more challenging clients, who turned out to be very happy in the end, was a Chinese gentleman in China, where we helped him remotely via his son, who had gone home and said, "Dad, you've got to get these hearing aids."
Nice. I love those little referrals. What advertising something that we don't talk a lot about on this show. One of the things I see and I spent 10 years in a large advertising agency and see a lot of money go out through the advertising coffers, and a lot of frustrated business owners who have gone down the advertising path, and the ads finish. You've got to find more money. You know, it's an expensive channel to market, but you're obviously finding it a successful one.
It was part of building a brand quickly. So as you said, we were not well known. We're in a field where there are some very powerful companies. The other hearing aid companies are big multinationals with very deep pockets. So we wanted to build a quality brand quickly, and going through the radio and a trusted radio source and through some of their, let's say, health people who are associated with health was really very much part of building the brand. So you could call it advertising. Well, it is advertising, but it was very much part of the marketing approach.
And have you say just trusted radio, so you've actually gone with, I'm assuming, a national schedule on, what is it, the Macquarie network, where you're in one station in each city?
We have done, and that seems to be effective. At the moment, we're channeling the dollars a different way, so we're focusing on Victoria.
Why?
Cash flow, basically.
do one thing well.
So, and also to try and get a bit of a handle on how well it works. We do try to be quite data-driven. As I said, it's quite hard in the field of hearing aids where people tend to take quite a long time. They don't get up one morning and say, I just heard about hearing aids on the radio, I'll go and buy them today. So it's quite difficult to track. So we do make quite a lot of use of analytics and turn some campaigns on and off to see whether we are gaining traction with them.
What other major marketing initiatives are you undertaking, Elaine?
A lot is through PR. As you said, we're building on our social media. We're relatively new at that, but we're trying to build that presence and understand that space more. With the PR,
you've got an agency that is chasing interviews for you. Is that pretty much the strategy?
We did have. We've gone back more to doing it from in-house.
Good on you.
I think it's important to build the relationships with the journalist yourself, and I think that's very much a changing environment where my observation is it's more journalist-driven now than it is announcement-driven.
Oh, yeah. So are you identifying journalists that you think you would like to have cover something Blamey Saunders is doing and then approaching them with a particular angle?
More keeping them up to date and building a relationship.
Ah, yes. Great. So literally, do you email through a research finding or a development? Or
yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. And they're happy with that? Do they respond saying thank you or they do?
Yes, they say keep in touch.
And at some
next
point
time they want to write a hearing story of some kind, hopefully they call me.
Yeah, right. Okay. So at some point you hope that they knock on your door.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's really about building that position of I hope when people think hearing, they think that they'll come to me for some comments.
Love it. Do you mind if I ask, could you ballpark your marketing spend for the 12 months?
Probably rather not.
Yeah, fair enough. Private company and all? I'm sure there's many breathing down Blamey Saunders' neck right now, or back, or whatever they say.
People with much deeper pockets.
Yes,
so I have felt that we've got to be very mindful and smart about what we do.
Well, I think you have been. I think, like I often say, there's never been a better time to market a small business, and we, the small business owner, can punch so far above our marketing weight, and you're proof of that.
Absolutely.
It's exciting, and well done to you. Well, just one last question. I notice you've got a personal blog. I notice that you've been rather busy and haven't updated since March, and it's now June, and I see that often. But what's the thinking behind the personal blog, Elaine?
The personal blog was as a knowledge base, and then I started to review what I really wanted it for, and I guess the real answer there is I'm still reviewing it. So it's not totally that I've been too busy. It's partly it's been what do I really want to do with this.
I interviewed. I noticed the heading on your blog, which listeners you can find at elainesaunders.com.au. You can the headings Hearing Stories, a new series, and I think that's I call that an editorial mission, and that's really, that's a great if you were to use that as a place to share stories of inspiration or people who have got their life back on track as a result of hearing and some of the amazing things they may have gone on to do. As a result of no longer being hearing impaired.
I've collected quite a lot of those stories.
Share them.
I have a book coming out later in the year or early next year. I'm not sure how long the publishers will take to get it to market, but that will have quite a number of them in it.
You could call it Hear.
Maybe. Sorry, the publisher has ideas of what it's going to be called.
Did that publisher approach you? Or
Yes.
And how did they find out about you? You're well known.
Very oddly, through an article in a regional newspaper.
Wow. You often hear that. It's these little things. You think, a little article in a little regional newspaper, but it only takes one person of influence to read it, doesn't it?
It does, and it came about because I do quite a lot of work in the, if you like, not-for-profit space, and I'm actually involved in Rotary International's action group on hearing, and as part of that, I do a little bit of pro bono home visits to people who need hearing aids but are a bit older around my hometown out at Woodend, and that got featured in the newspaper, and from that came the book.
Yeah, fantastic. That'll be a game changer. I'm seeing lots and lots of people with books, and they open up an amazing amount of doors. Dr. Elaine Saunders, thank you so much for sharing some wonderful insights into both where the business came from and the problem you are solving and how you've gone about taking it to market. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. Great interviewer.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did bring it to you. Seriously, there was so much marketing gold there, and I will share my top 3 learnings with you very shortly. But I want to let you in on a little secret that smart business owners everywhere are onto. Have you got marketing materials lying around that need a little loving, a little tweaking? Maybe the details on your stationery need updating. Maybe you need to pimp up your logo a bit for a special occasion or update your social media headers. Well, that will not be a worry because Swiftly is here. $19 and less than an hour is all it takes Swiftly to make those little design tweaks for you. Small design fixes fast is exactly how Swiftly rolls. You simply upload your artwork that needs fixing, tell them what needs doing, and boom, within an hour and $19 later, it's done. Check them out, swiftly.com. That's Swiftly. Okay, so many marketing learnings from that fireside chat with Dr. Elaine. Here's mine. Number 1, everyone's online. No longer, I don't want to hear any more, my customers aren't online. Everyone's online. And if they're not, then tell them that you are, and you've got to market your marketing. But the reality is, there's not many industries out there where their customers aren't online anymore. So embrace the online world. And ask yourself the question, what can you sell online? Maybe there are some new opportunities for you to increase or add additional revenue streams by adding a training course online. If you're a product seller, you might think about a membership kind of product offering. There are so many different things you can do online. I mentioned that book the other day, The $100 Startup, on a previous episode. That's got some great examples of people starting really simple online businesses. Another learning from Dr. Elaine is engage with journalists. I love that. Just keeping them updated, choosing the journalists that you want to cover your story, and just keeping them updated in industry and business happenings so that when it is time for them to do a story on something like your product or service, you are on the top of their little black book. And tip number 3 from that chat, stop waiting for everything to be perfect. I love how Elaine launched what is, the amount of money they must have spent getting the product right for then her business partner to say he'll do the website. Massive admiration for that. It would be the obvious thing to do would be to employ and spend lots of money on a web design and development agency because it's an online business. But they thought, no, we just got to get this live. Let's do it ourselves and then make some money and start to reinvest in the business. And that's what they did. So good on them. Love chatting with Elaine. Hope you did too. Head over to the show notes for this episode 193 and leave a comment. I'd love to know what you thought, good, bad or indifferent, but love to get the dialogue happening. We talk a lot about each episode in the Small Business Big Marketing Forum, and I encourage you to leave a comment. I know that's difficult because you're probably out walking the dog. You might even be in bed listening to this, but get out of bed, leave a comment. Righto, team of motivated business owners. That wraps things up. I hope there was plenty of marketing gold there. Get into the forum. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Join the forum. Ask me a question. Ask me that most pressing marketing question that's on your mind. Had a wonderful exclusive forum webinar today for members where it was just me and 4 members chugging through some questions that they had on their mind, sharing some small wins amongst us and basically keeping ourselves all accountable and moving forward with the marketing of our business. And that's one of the benefits you get of joining the Small Business Big Marketing Forum. So head over to the website, click on the forum button, and you'll be in there before you can say, geez, why wasn't I in here sooner? Big thanks to Net Registry. Get your online marketing sorted. Don't forget their date of August 14 in Melbourne. I'll put a link to that workshop in the show notes. Thanks to Swiftly for their support. Small design fixes real fast. Many wonderful guests coming up in the coming weeks, including getting old AG back into the Small Business Big Marketing headquarters for some funny business. Plenty more as well. Enough from me. I'm Timbo Reid. You've been smart enough to tune in to the world's #1 marketing show. May your marketing be the best marketing. Hooroo.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.